Florida State looks to start the season 3-0 for the first time in 7 years. Roger Federer retires from professional tennis, and Tim Brando joins us to preview this weekend's big college football matchups. Check it out and more on Crane & Company. All of the offseason talk in the state of Florida was about the new head coaches at Florida and Miami. FSU was just a footnote in the headlines of the ACC race, and after playing lowly Duquesne, the Seminoles had to go play against LSU in New Orleans with a head coach that was on shaky ground after 2 straight years of mediocrity. Now fast forward to week 3, and FSU has a chance to become a narrative in their own right. A win at Louisville will show something we haven't seen during the Norvell era in Tallahassee. That is consistency. The biggest win Norvell's had to his name at FSU was in his first year beating number 5 North Carolina at home, only to get blown out in the next game on the road by 32. That game was in Louisville. Jordan Travis has to continue to be efficient in the air. He's using his improvisation skills to help receivers create separation during scramble plays, all while not turning the ball over. The run game will continue to be scary because Travis is such a threat to keep it on the zone read or tuck and run at every moment. But so far, the thing that is the most surprising about FSU is they just look more organized. They let LSU bury themselves by letting the Bengal Tigers make the controllable mistakes. The truth is, most teams lose games. They don't win them. And if Florida State continues to play clean, they will not only make headlines, but they will find themselves a whole lot closer to relevance than the preseason talking heads ever thought. Bringing my co-host David Cohn, Flaming Dragon as well. Appreciate you guys hopping in. Make sure you like and subscribe and that you're following us on all social media. You know, it's one thing to have a one-off win. And was it the biggest win of all time? Do we think LSU is an elite team? No, but you basically went. It was a road game for you. It was a de facto home game for LSU in New Orleans. And you went in there and you played solid, organized, smart football. We have not been able to say that about Florida State. We've seen them take a step forward sometimes and then take 2 steps back. Is Louisville the best opponent in the world? No, there was expectations coming in to this year. Scott Satterfield's seat's a little bit hot now after the loss against Syracuse. Got a big one at UCF on the road. But if Florida State goes and beats Louisville, and they play organized, and they look like the Florida State that we've seen, do you think, Cone, that this could be the year where Norvell really turns the corner at Florida State, and therefore maybe Florida State will make that commitment monetarily to better facilities when you're looking at Miami and Florida and kind of what's going on over there?
I don't know what the administration is going to do, because after Jimbo Fisher won a national title there, if they weren't going to give the money for the facilities then,
Very true.
I don't know like how good of a job Mike Norvell would have to do to be able to convince the administration to put a lot of funding in. I don't know that situation, but I do know that Mike Norvell seems to have this program headed in the right direction. You said it best. LSU is not an elite football team right now, but they have great athletes, and we know that they have a proven coach, the winningest coach in Notre Dame history. You go on the road and beat those athletes, that is a good win for a program that hasn't, they didn't win an opener or haven't had a winning season since 2016, something like that. Exactly. That is a very solid win. So we still have a lot of question marks, obviously, but I think that Mike Norvell does have this Florida State program headed in the right direction, and more than the discipline you talked about, they seem to have that spark at the quarterback position now. I grew up in South Georgia. Florida State was my favorite team growing up. They always had this electricity on both sides of the football. You know, even when 27-year-old Chris Winkie was playing quarterback, you had Peter Warrick at wide receiver, like all these playmakers all around the field. This kid, the Jordan Travis kid, seems to be able to give Florida State a spark, and this is the type of road win I think that they need to, go and get.
Yeah, and Blaine, we always talk about balance offensively, and I think the word you're looking for, Cone, is FSU used to strike fear into people.
On both sides of the ball.
On both sides of the ball. When you played Florida State, you knew you were going up against a national brand, but they played with an edge. Would they get crazy penalties sometimes? Yes. Would they be a little bit out of control? Yes. When I look at this Florida State team and Jordan Travis, who to me, at least early in the year, and it's really early in the season, has taken somewhat of a step in the passing game, not just from completing passes, but realizing, hey, if I'm efficient with the ball, there's nothing wrong with getting 5 or 6 yards at a time, throwing the check down, throwing the hitch, taking care of the ball. Jordan Travis has always been a good runner. That was his thing. The reason Florida State struggled to move the ball was that everybody knew that Travis wasn't consistent enough as a passer to have some semblance of balance on offense. So therefore, the offensive line gets overwhelmed by a loaded box. You feel constricted as a play caller because how much do you trust Jordan Travis to go through progressions and keep defenses honest in the back end, Blaine? It seems that Florida State has the most balanced attack, at least up to this point, that we've seen since Norvell's been in Tallahassee. And balance keeps you on the beat.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you've seen Jordan Travis grow up a lot from last year. And you go back and you look at that first game against LSU. I mean, athletically, I feel like Florida State matched up with LSU pretty well. You have a couple guys on the D-line who are NFL players. I still get worried. Now, you go back to that LSU game and you go back late to that LSU game, some of the play calls Mike Norvell had. I mean, you're pitching the ball on the 2-yard line to really ice the game.
Yeah.
I still question that. But they looked a lot cleaner than Florida State usually does, which is a good thing because Florida State always has the athletes to go down there and play. And Florida State used to be this and used to be that. But they need to have a decent season. You go through their schedule. They got Clemson. They got Miami. They got Florida. They're going to have teams that they can prove it. So if Mike can win 8 or 9 games with Florida State with the administration, I don't know how much really they care about football right now because you look what went down with Jimbo Fisher after he left. But when they start committing, you see when Miami commits. I mean, it's a problem. But when Florida State commits, it can be in that same tier as Miami when they commit to being good at something. So I want to see more first. They're playing a good Louisville team. But LSU, that first half, could barely complete a pass. And both teams really fumbled the bag in that game. So we'll see more as the season goes on. But I'm not jumping on the train or the bandwagon yet.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I'm not either. What I'm saying is they've set themselves up for an opportunity at Louisville again. We've seen it on the road. We've seen it at home. It's just trying to put together that consistent product. Now, we're at an inflection point with Florida State, as I mentioned. With Florida hiring Billy Napier, we'll see how that goes. They beat Utah, gave away a game to Kentucky, in my opinion. Then you have Miami, that we know what Mario can do. Tyler Van Dyke. There's a lot of momentum in Gainesville and in Miami right now. So Florida State having a good year can keep them from falling down a notch, even compared to a UCF, which had a big loss. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, with Gus Malzahn and UCF, it's not a foregone conclusion that place is going to blow up. Gus finds a way to ruin good things. He's a great guy, good person. That's fantastic. But he's not an elite football coach. He'll do some good, do some bad. He's kind of like a great appetizer at a good restaurant. That's what Gus Malzahn is. But again, it is an inflection point for Florida State, and it's going to be interesting to see. Now, we're going to get to our picks. One of my bets involves that game. We're going to make our picks, just some money line picks for some big games this weekend, not our bets, which we'll put out in the morning. We got a Saturday special with Clay Helton as well. But let's go to the Booster Club real quick before we get into rapid fire.
All right, Emmanuel C. says, I still feel Mike Norvell thinks way too much. He almost blew the LSU game late, and thank goodness for the blocked field goal attempt, or else we would be having a totally different conversation.
Definitely. They did block the extra point, the pitch. That was a crazy call in that situation. I don't think it's a crazy call if it's your first drive of the game and you run. That's called a Mayday play. What happens at Bryant Vincent used to run it a ton when we were at South Alabama. You overload one side of the line of scrimmage, okay, which is the heavy side and the short side. You get up, you line up fast. It's a first sound count. So the first thing that comes out of my mouth, you snap it, I pitch it, and it's just a quick pitch. It's an overload, quick pitch. There's some other plays that are built off of it. I've seen them fake the pitch, reverse out, hit the tight end on the slam and slide on the short side. But that's a play we called the Mayday play that Florida State had ran earlier in that game and worked. I believe it was on 4th and short. It may have been 3rd and short. I believe it was 4th and short. The problem I had with them pitching that ball was the time that they pitched it. The circumstance where they pitched it. You just don't take that risk for that reason, and we saw it. Because again, what's crazy is if he completes the pitch, it's a touchdown. It's a walk-in. But you still have to complete that pitch.
Not when you don't get that much more value than just
That's
handing
exactly
it off.
right. That's exactly, which we'll get to value about handing it off in the inside the 3-yard line.
They won't do it.
All right, Moore Stevens says, if Mike Norvell maintains success at FSU, does Deion Sanders become content with being an HBC coach and become an Eddie Robinson figure, like an old Grambling coach?
Well, I think Deion's in a good spot. Now, again, it is early for Florida State. They could go to Louisville and lose tonight. I mean, again, if you look at trends, last time they had a big win, like I said, they beat North Carolina at home, who was ranked number 5, and then went to Louisville and got beat like 48-16. We have to understand, too, Louisville's had high expectations this year. This is their first home game. This is a Friday night game. So when it came down to betting, I was really, really looking at Louisville money line. I'm going to get to who I picked. We'll all get to who we picked. But this play, it is going to be a rocking atmosphere. Louisville can really, really turn it up. The student section gets really, really loud. We'll see. It's just another hostile environment for Florida State to go into, just like down in NOLA. One more.
All right, Ross Bryan, this one's for you, David. David, do you have Florida or Florida State when they play this winter?
Do what now?
Winning. Do you have Florida or Florida State winning when they play this winter?
I think after looking at what Florida was able to do against Utah on the ground, I would go with Florida right now. Where is that game this year?
I believe it's in Gainesville.
Let me check.
Either way, I would take Florida right now just because we need to see more from Florida State, and I think that win
at Florida State.
Oh, it's in
Doak Campbell. All right. Well, look, I'll still take Florida, but again, having that even asking that question gets me excited because I went on an unofficial visit to Florida State game when I was coming out. I mean, that is an old school rivalry. So that game being good again would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we look at rivalries that are important for college football. Florida State, Miami. Hell, Miami versus Florida.
Yeah.
I said one more, Blaine, but let's go one more.
Oh, you want another one? All right. Let's go to Mike, RFF Lifestyle, Ask Crane and Company.
Lifestyle.
Can the Bears upset the Packers this Sunday night? If not, which top college or NFL team is losing this week?
Look, with Justin Fields and his ability when the play breaks down, it's just hard for me to see Aaron Rodgers in the offense playing that bad again after such a poor showing, because we've watched the Packers look terrible in week 1 and come back and look like they figured it out. Now, when they got beat down by the Saints that year in the first game and then came back, they had more weapons than they did now. We know Lazard's beat up. You have Tanya. Randall Cobb's got to start showing up. Christian Watson's got to stop dropping touchdown passes on the 9 route. Aaron Rodgers absolutely dropped a tear in the bucket from about 55 yards in the first game, and it went through his hands like he was a ghost. So you got to have guys start making plays. I find big rivalry game, Bears at the Packers at Lambeau. I did pick up the Packers defense as a flex because I think the Bears, the rain and kind of what happened with the Niners favored them late. Justin Fields was able to run around, find a guy on the backside for a big touchdown. We know they have Darnell Mooney, but outside of that, what did the Bears really have? David Montgomery's a good back. I don't see the upset happening. I think the Packers win this game. But there are a couple big games. And I don't want to get ahead of it too early, but I've been high on Washington that's playing Michigan State. That's a highly ranked team. A&M hosting Miami, we know, is another big one. There's a chance too, and I've been saying it all week, Texas is beat up. You're coming off a huge game. We always talk about trap games. There's letdown games. There's letdown games coming off big wins. There's letdown games coming off big losses. When you look at Texas and this UTSA team coming in, Texas is not going to be as up as they were for Alabama. The injury room probably looks like a triage tent during the Civil War right about now, and this is UTSA's Super Bowl. So watch out for the Roadrunners pulling one over on the Coyote, a la Texas this weekend. I don't know. We'll see if I go money line there, but I'm really liking UTSA to cover. After we saw the squirrels yesterday, hashtag trust the signs in the trash can. Squirrel, cousin of the Roadrunner. UTSA is the Roadrunners, therefore I think they covered the 12.5 in Austin. So it's going to be interesting. But, Cone, rapid fire.
Pew, 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 pew.
Roger Federer has retired from professional tennis. 20-time major Grand Slam champion, world number 1 for 4 years in a row, basically, 6 years overall. He's done playing professional tennis.
Yeah, cool story. No, I'm just kidding. Again, whenever there's a titan that you see bows out in the sport, we've gotten to see one. And am I the biggest tennis fan in the world? No, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I hang on every Serena Williams serve or used to watch Andy Roddick and follow his bus around like a roadie. But we were very privileged to be able to watch the race between Djokovic and Nadal and Federer, and you're really watching. It's almost like Jack Arnold. And watching some of those old school guys, Gary Player, like play back in their prime and get after it. I think he's retiring at a time where he can still be effective as a player, but he feels like it's time. I always respect when one of the titans of the sport bows out on their own accord and they don't hang around too long. We all know those guys that hang around too long. You've been a lawyer for 45 years. Okay, in year 44, come on, man. You can barely remember where the front door is. Who are you really defending? Sometimes you just got to bow out. He did it on his terms. Hall of Famer, one of the best ever when you look at him, Pete Sampras, Andre Agassi. You can go down the list. A hell of a career. And Roger Federer always did it the right way. You know, how many times did you see Roger Federer's name come up about hitting a woman or driving drunk or doing something stupid in the media? Again, he just did it the right way, and he deserves time to relax. And I hope he gets into commentating. I'm sure he'll still be around tennis.
I hope so, too. Roger Federer proved that you can be a class act and a world #1 athlete simultaneously.
Yeah, you know what they say? You show your class, not your ass.
And just think if he didn't have the three greatest tennis players of all time in the men's game are playing at the same time.
Yep.
Just imagine if that hadn't been the case. Roger Federer would have 40 major championships right now. All right, NFL, Chargers, Chiefs from last night. Chiefs ended up hanging on, coming back for the win.
Now, I will say on one instance, I was happy because I have about an 8-team parlay right now that started out with 4 Major League Baseball teams that all hit 2 days ago. I had Kansas City -2.5, and then I've got Louisville +3 tonight, the over 57 in that game, and then the under 49.5 for Wyoming. I hit that one. $917 win there. So I was happy that happened. On the other hand, bets yesterday. I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. Why does nobody run the ball inside the 3-yard line anymore?
They can't do it.
We have a saying, it's called getting too cute, right? At some point, it's cool you can run all these pick plays at the goal line, and I get it. Teams are going to overload against the run. But both teams, Mahomes is lucky he didn't throw a pick 6 to Asante Samuel inside the 2-yard line after you get it down to the inch. Guess what? Sometimes you know what's cool? Just scoring a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Just turn around and hand the ball off. Like sometimes in the NFL, it's so frustrating because they turn it into a ballet recital when all you have to do is just open the door and walk through it. It absolutely blows my mind. That's neither here nor there, though. Big win by the Chiefs. It was a heck of a game. I think these are the two best teams, especially after seeing the Broncos in the AFC and the Raiders in the AFC West. All right, this was somewhat of a revenge game for the Chargers. They came out, they go up 10-0. It was a good answer by the Chiefs, but it all comes out. Remember this, and we say this all the time. Offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators get paid to have success on third down and either score in the red zone or hold people to field goals in the red zone. That's where the game is won and lost. And at the end, you saw the Chiefs cash in the red zone, even though I think them kicking a field goal on 4th and inches from the inch-yard line at home was a little bit asinine. They did go on to win the game, so it looks like a good decision. I don't like the vibe that gives the team. It was a good game. Wasn't a super exciting game. Justin Herbert showed a lot of guts at the end. I mean, he took a couple shots in the ribs, came through on 4th down twice. Chargers are going to be fine, but this is a matchup of quite possibly, in my opinion, two of the best teams in the AFC West, and you could really say maybe the AFC.
Well, I mean, you saw the Chargers without, their main receiver.
Keenan Allen, yeah.
You know, which is
Carter's a good player, though.
But, let's be realistic, go back and look at this game. Patrick Mahomes is really good at football.
Yeah.
Really. He made a couple throws that I was just sitting in my living room like, how?
The touchdown pass where he
The touchdown where he just flicked the wrist 40, 50 yards and hit the dude right in the breadbasket. I mean, you're just watching two phenomenal teams. And the biggest worry, the thing I worry about the most of the Chargers is up front. I mean, Justin Herbert was most of the game on his back. You can say the play calling was somewhat questionable late. But, man, you're watching two teams somewhat evenly matched, evenly killed down the stretch. We'll see this matchup. And I want to see the Chargers at home. I mean, this was at Kansas City. You put your trust in Patrick Mahomes. You put your trust in Andy Reid. And they usually take this game at home. But Chargers covered for your boys 7.5 and a hit the under, so I'll take it.
Yeah, well, I don't think Justin Herbert was on his back really until the fourth quarter. That's when they really started getting to him. If you watch, he had time. I mean, first couple drives too, and in the first half, he was having time. He was just throwing the ball to Mike Williams every play.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Mike Williams. He had time, but he wasn't on his back. They ran the ball pretty good. I thought they did a good job throwing the ball out of the backfield. Now, the Chargers' offensive line kept getting hurt throughout the game. They had to replace a guard and then a tackle. So I thought they held up front. I think actually Mahomes was under pressure most of the game.
That's what I was actually
gonna say. With Mack and Bosa. I think it was the exact opposite.
But that was expected, though. I'm saying, I was not expecting the Chiefs' defensive line to somewhat whoop up on the Chargers. I was expecting the best defensive line in the NFL to get to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, but I felt like Herbert had a lot of time. I don't think he was running for his life.
Everything to Mike Williams other than that touchdown were quick passes.
At the end, I mean, Well, I mean, there were times where Justin Herbert went through all his reads and then went back. They were even talking about it on the broadcast. But Cone, when you look at both quarterbacks, these look like two guys that are playing very fast in slow motion. We talk about guys going through reads, going through progressions, getting to that check down. You never go broke making a profit. These are two quarterbacks that look like they are seeing everything, and they are playing a sped up version of the game that is slowed down in the mind.
I mean, they're top 5, top 6 quarterbacks in the NFL, and as great of a game as Patrick Mahomes had, Blaine, I still think it was the most flustered I've seen him, to be honest with you. I mean, some of the he was constantly, like Jake says, backing up in the first half. Look, they were calling more screens. They were calling so many screens in the first half, I thought Gus Malzahn was out there calling plays. Right. Now, I understand why when you look at the front 4 and really the front 7 of the Chargers, and then everything that Derwin James was able to do, which we have a Derwin James play up here as well. But I think the Chiefs do have a lot to get figured out, especially up front. We saw our boy Creed Humphrey coming out on some of the screens. Look, he had a good game, and he's able to do some of those things. But even as good as of a game as Patrick Mahomes had, he looked a little bit flustered. I think they need to get that figured out up front. And to your point about NFL teams not running the ball at the goal line anymore, how can you run the ball at the goal line when quarterbacks can't even line up under center anymore?
That's true.
I mean, we're seeing games, even at the college level and at the professional level now, quarterbacks are lining up in the shotgun at the half-yard line. It used to be a thing running the shotgun in high school or even in college. We don't want to run the shotgun because there's a risk that there might be a quarterback-center exchange problem. Yeah. Now people are saying, well, that's why we don't line up under center, because there might be a quarterback-center exchange problem. Where did we get to the point in the game where you can't line up under center and get a snap?
Yeah, like if you can't get under, it's so funny. We have these quarterbacks. You're going to pay them $260 million. You can't get underneath center.
You can't get under center? You're talking about RPO?
That's like paying a NASCAR driver $100 million. He can't turn the car on.
Like, well, we want to run the RPO. RPO stands for run people over. When you're inside the 5-yard line, run people over.
So this is what I was talking about. So the Chiefs had more QB pressures, more QB hits, and more QB sacks. If you would have told me that before this game started, I would have called you a liar.
Can't happen.
Yeah. Well, but I was talking about a lot of those took place about halfway through the third quarter and in the fourth quarter. For about the first half and a quarter, Justin Herbert was pretty clean. I thought they did a good job. I really thought that Joe Lombardi did a good job being aggressive early in the game as a play caller. They were mixing it up, especially on first down. You saw a lot of quick game, a lot of intermediate game. And you talk about the screens with the Chiefs. I mean, hell, Gus Malzahn, a guy that's thrown more bubbles than Squirtle, I can feel you on that one. Let's go ahead and run this clip real quick of Travis Kelce getting absolutely poom-pah slammed at the goal line by Derwin James. Let's go and run the play.
The open man. You're talking about
Travis Kelce's not little. Home for the top rope.
That's 6'2", 220 versus about 6'5".
Yeah, this is how you get low. I mean, it's a Little John video, basically, which he was down. Travis Kelce, let's get in the end zone next time. You did give me 10 points, so I can't be that pissed. But let's continue, kind of little rapid fire before Timmy B gets up in.
Jamal Adams out for the season?
Tough.
Man.
Speaking of safeties.
Tough loss, man.
Yeah, it's quadricep tendon. The Jets, it's just trying to find out which mom was Jamal Adams hanging out with. It seems like that's just kind of been the thing. You hang out with somebody else's mom, you get hurt, whatever. But in all seriousness, Jamal Adams and the Jets, man, you just can't seem to catch a break. Meanwhile, across the river there, the Giants, 1-0, Daniel Jones, hashtag, where's the commissioner?
Guys, it sounds like the fight we all wanted in the boxing world is going to happen. Looks like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. are inking a deal for that undisputed welterweight champion. Now, remember, Crawford is 38-0. Spence Jr. is 28-0.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say that Blaine finally gets to fight Jake Paul. Yeah, it's looking like it's not signed yet. It's looking like November 19th in Vegas. Now, what's cool about this is they have that bilateral rematch clause that the loser can exercise. So if you lose, the loser wants a rematch, you can go ahead and get that. Crawford's the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. He's a welterweight. Spence Jr., #3 pound-for-pound fighter. He's a welterweight. This is the fight that you need for boxing. These are the type fights that you need. It's going to be interesting to watch. Obviously, the deal's pretty much only done. This will be a trilogy, I think. You'll have Crawford win the first, Spence Jr. win the second, Crawford will win the third.
I don't know.
I think it's a trilogy.
I do have Crawford, though. I was surprised that I think Crawford, it sounds like, not all the details have emerged, but he is going to get the minority split in the revenue share, I believe.
Yes.
That's what's interesting. When you're pound for pound #1, Like usually you're like, look, I want the lion's share.
He wants to fight.
But hey, I know exactly.
Look, he wants to fight, and it's good for the sport. Terrence, that's one of the reasons that I like Terrence. To me, Terrence isn't just a guy that's going on there and popping off in the mouth. He's a true businessman.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can tell he knows what's up.
Yeah. All right. Julio Rodriquez became the third rookie ever in the 25-25 club that steals and homers.
You talk about a complete player. We say, oh, well, we're not seeing guys steal bases anymore, do this. Julio's kind of a throwback a little bit, even though the 25 bombs from a guy that's stealing bases, he's only the third rookie ever to do it. You had Chris Young in 2007, then Mike Trout, the Witch, in 2012 that did it. We watched this, the same guy we watched in the Home Run Derby get up there and just clobber balls out of the park. Like it's nothing. He's an absolute five-tool guy. We talk about the Mariners a lot on this show for a reason. I love the young core that they have. They battle. They've got a good mix of guys on the mound, whether it's Robbie Ray, who's had another really good year. You look at the young skill positions, which is what I call fielders in baseball, like we talk about football. But J-Rod's a guy they're patrolling center field that you're going to have for a long time, who's going to continue to affect the game in multiple ways. And who are the most dangerous players? The players that affect the game in the most ways. J-Rod's one of those guys for sure.
Last one, Miami's leading wide receiver is out against Texas A&M.
This is huge. Xavier Restrepo, this is huge. Again, going into a hostile environment, we've seen that line crawl up for Texas A&M. It's up to 6 now. I believe Max Johnson's going to be the starter. If he plays good, I'm going to be hell on that Twitter app. Y'all better get ready. I may drive to College Station with the Max Johnson jersey and just sit in the middle of town and watch people just wave as people drive by. But look, Miami's going to need all hands on deck on this one. And people have asked me all week, I've gone on the radio, they're like, how do you get a team up, after such a tough loss to App State or something like this? I'll say it again. It's harder to get guys up after a big win. Like Clay Helton and Sean Clark this week, the head coaches for Georgia Southern and App State, have a harder task than Jimbo Fisher does. Nothing motivates an 18 to 22-year-old male more than being embarrassed in front of his friends at what he thinks he's best at. And you not only got embarrassed in front of all your friends, you got embarrassed in front of 100,000 people and that saw you in person for the reason you went to A&M to play football. So I'm not buying it's going to be hard to get up motivated. They're motivated on their own. You took an L at home to App State. So not having a guy like Restrepo, a guy that Tyler Van Dyke can look at and say it's a security blanket if the run game's not working. Because those guys on that Texas A&M front seven, they're out for blood this week. They got pushed around by a Sun Belt team. So don't think for 1 second those guys aren't coming in breathing fire in this game. And Tyler Van Dyke's good enough to throw them to a win. He's good enough to throw him. You look at his skill set, what he brings mentally, what he's seeing. But without Restrepo, I know Miami does have weapons, but that's taken off the grenade at the end you saved to blow everybody up. So we're going to see that line's going to keep going up and up and up. We want to ask Tim Brando about that when we get him in here. Blaine, real quick, what's going on in the Booster Club?
All right, let's go to Oregon _grown.
What's up?
Is it a mistake for Oregon to start Bo Nix over Ty Thompson? And will Ty end up transferring to find some playing time?
Here's the thing with Bo Nix. As somebody that's from Auburn and that has watched him, you take the good with the bad. Now, I want to say this. People that are just jumping off of Oregon because of what Georgia did to them, I would caution you before you do that. Georgia's going to do that to a lot of teams. Oregon caught it early. You hear Dan Lanning. We had a lot to fix. We fixed it. I know they ran Eastern Washington out of the yard last week. It was 70-14. Bo Nix threw 5 touchdown passes. It's Eastern Washington. I get it. But don't bail on this Oregon team yet. They've got a big one at home against BYU. They still haven't played a conference game. You beat BYU. You have a good year in conference. It could be a heck of a start for Dan Lanning. You just ran into probably the best team in college football right now, the most physically imposing team in college football, and a team that is as confident as ever with a quarterback that has nothing to lose in Stetson Bennett, that's already a hero in Athens. So Bo Nix has a way of drawing you back in and letting you believe once again. I've seen it a million times, so don't be shocked if Bo Nix goes out there and has a big game against BYU. I'm not going to pick it yet Again, when you play a school that's based off of religion, they're going to play harder for longer than anybody. We'll see. But I don't think it needs to be we need to replace Bo Nix yet. Bo Nix is a disaster. Now, if he goes out against BYU at home and he looks bad and has a couple turnovers and they're bad turnovers and they're out of his control and they lose the game, then we can start talking about replacing the quarterback. But I don't think you jump off the Oregon train yet. I don't think we know enough yet.
Not with these big games coming up. BYU coming to town, not just yet. Well, see something else first.
And Blaine, it may be kind of like one of those movies where the first 10 minutes you're watching, you're like, I don't know if I like this. And then all of a sudden, the last hour and a half, you're like, that was absolute filet mignon. I loved it.
That's a good analogy. I think it might be one of those things where the first 10 minutes don't make sense, and then there's a really cool scene, and
that keeps you there. That's exactly right.
Another really bad
It's a Michael Bay movie.
Then it's a good scene, and then the ending is kind of like the beginning.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't know if I'd say 10 minutes, or maybe half the movie. The first half of the movie is just absolute trash. Because y'all didn't just lose to Georgia. Y'all got drug out of the stadium. Y'all scored 3 points after all that hype y'all got. We got these athletes. We got Bo Nix. Y'all couldn't beat a JV team. I'm going with BYU in this game because BYU on the defensive line is a problem. They're 30. They look like, they're just riding waves every day. They look like they just grew up and just came out with just absolute jacked and tan. They were getting guys, boom, we're here. Next thing we're out to play, we're making the tackle. I saw Oregon. They're somewhat big. They're somewhat fast. But BYU up front on defense was special when I watched.
Well, yeah, they're nice. I mean, and let's wait to make our picks until the end here. We got our big game selections here at the end. But no, I think we got to give Oregon a little bit more of a chance. And yes, the more I think about it, Cone, Bo Nix is the M. Night Shyamalan of college football. Like you're watching the movie, it's a twist with another twist. Then there's a twist at the end. But guess what? It was all a twist. That's what Bo Nix is. That's what I'm describing. But speaking about a guy who doesn't get it twisted up, a guy who did call A&M possibly being overrated and caught more hell than a train down to meet Hades, Mr. Tim Brando, doing a great job calling some games. Already called some big games already this year. Our good friend Timmy B got up this morning with us on a Flaming Dragon Friday. Timmy B, my good friend, it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you, Jay, and guys. I must tell you that I've already achieved enormous success with our season in just a couple of weeks.
Yes.
By stumbling while toe tapping Timmy B at Camp Randall and falling on top of Spencer Tillman's back to cause so much unrest amongst all the websites across the country. I did make Golf Digest, which is something it's been a career-long goal of mine.
Congrats.
So I was really thrilled to make Golf Digest.
That is. Well, I didn't know if I was watching a game or a scene from Magic Mike, Timmy B.
Well, it happens. It's 31-0. They're playing jump, and I'm trying to stay energized. It was game
great.
2, day 2. And the camera caught me at just the wrong time.
So it works.
I stumbled right onto his back, and there you go. That's the story, and I'm sticking to it.
Oh, no. Look, it's good. Go ahead. Look, we're all friends here. I'll dance right now with Blaine. Wait, actually play it. Play it. You know what it is?
What is it?
The song.
The new one?
The new one.
We walking out?
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
Little Edwin Diaz right there. You got to give him a little bit there. A little bit there. It's Friday morning. I got chicory in my coffee.
If
there
you
it
can't
is.
move the shoulders, you can't dance, man.
That's exactly right. Nobody puts
here.
baby in the corner,
it was the
Timmy
hip,
B.
right here.
Nobody.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Nobody. But
You'd be amazed at the women I got to date before I got out of high school because
Timmy B, listen, with that smooth, velvety voice, there's no telling. I would just narrate what goes on in the room.
Man.
You and Morgan Freeman. I'd be like, Jeff, sat down to get a delicious.
Well, I'm here to tell you, and Terry would not have married me almost 44 years ago if I couldn't dance.
Yeah, I'm just trying to convince Reed to hang on for a few more months so it's official. But anyways, Timmy B, obviously week 2 had a lot of action. Alabama squeaks one out against Texas. What are your thoughts on Alabama right now before we get to these week 3 games? Because I think people that are writing them off maybe made the same mistake a couple times last year, and then you look up and they win the SEC championship game and they're in the Natty.
Well, look, they're not there yet. I mean, they will be, I think. I mean, Nick's teams always are. But as per the norm, it's never about the opponent with Alabama. It's always Alabama sucked. We just played horribly. Now, Nick, to his credit, because maybe it's Sark, get in the post game did give Sark some credit, and he should have. I mean, offensively, they outcoached Alabama defensively. Their schemes, they really knew what they were doing. And then I think the addition of Gary Patterson as a defensive analyst, had to help from a defensive standpoint take away some of what Alabama wanted to get done in their run game, which I thought enabled their defensive ends to make a difference in the pass rush. Their offensive line, Alabama's offensive line, got pushed around. And listen, call me a nut, but I don't know how many different highlights of that incredible scramble on a key down to keep the drive alive before the field goal. And not one anchor that I saw over those highlights said, oh, by the way, 65 is holding.
Yeah.
I mean, the right tackle is mugging, the defensive. It's going right. I mean, he runs right by where the hold was. And there's no team in America that gets a non-call there other than Alabama. I mean, that's the truth. That's the absolute truth. And if you don't believe that, I'll go back and show you countless other examples of it. Pure playoff privilege matters with teams, and Alabama gets more of it because you hear, and even the narrative on them, it's the equity they built up. And they have built up a great deal of equity, and they deserve that, okay? But when I see a hold as open as that one that's not called, that's a problem, okay? And it happens over and over again with them. My man Terry Bowden, ULM, is going in there. All right?
I see that.
And old Auburn's Buster Brown is going to do his best to prove that maybe Alabama's issues are legitimate, that maybe they can hang in there for a little while in this game coming up tomorrow. So, listen, it's college football, fellas, and the bottom line is there is parity. Let's give the credit to some of these other teams. Sunbelt goes in to 3 Power 5 locations, storied locations, with packed houses, and they all win. There's a reason for that, and it's not, we shouldn't be shocked. It happened last year. But as long as we're exclusionary and we only let 4 damn teams in, we're not going to see the same kind of parity. Think about it, fellas. If last Saturday, was in a year when we had 12 teams in the playoff, then those upsets would have had a great deal more meaning than they have now. As it is, it's just, hey, nice job, Fun Belt. Happy for you. See ya. We're going to go play over here now. You're not invited.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen when we get 12. It's going to make it so much more enjoyable.
For sure. And we have Clay Helton, we're releasing on our Saturday special. We actually asked him about that because we asked Brian Vincent from UAB, should there be a separate championship for the group of 5? He wanted a separate championship. Clay Helton's answer is a little bit different, but it's not just Timmy B. It wasn't just those 3 teams. Wasn't just Georgia Southern. Wasn't just App State. Wasn't just Marshall. My South Alabama Jaguars, alma mater, went up to Central Michigan, a team that dropped a 44-piece with some honey biscuits and french fries against Oklahoma State, who's pretty good on defense. James Madison comes to the FBS. They're 2-0. They absolutely wiped the floor with Middle Tennessee that then goes on the road and beats Colorado State. Southern Miss gives Miami a little bit of a fight early. If you look at the teams the Sun Belt has added with teams that are leaving the American, you want to talk about a group of 5 conference that's starting to move up the apartment that may be down from that first floor working its way up to the penthouse. Watch out for the Sun Belt, fellas. And we got game day coming to Boone this weekend.
But even moving
we'll Fun
to
Belt
12.
this whole thing.
I mean, but even moving to 12.
The bottom line is we're not going to have 2 supers, okay? The Big 12 is going to get a really nice television deal. Trust me, okay? It's in the works. It's going to happen. Pac-12, whatever's left of it, depending upon what the Big 10 decides to do with regard to those Bay Area schools and possibly Oregon and Washington, we'll see. I think the Pac-12 will probably get a good TV deal too. What you saw last night with the whole streaming thing in the NFL, it's going to come to the college game to some extent. And while maybe not as many people are going to see some of those games, at least for now, they're going to get a lot of money from guys like Bezos. Okay, they're going to get a lot of money. So they're going to be fine. And what I'm telling you is we need to rid ourselves of this culture war, okay, of you're in the group of 5. You don't need to play with us crap versus Power 5. All right. We're going to have a legitimate Division I college football. And if you can compete at the Division I level, I don't care what damn league you're in. If you go out there and win all of your games, you warrant consideration to get into the 12. And again, I'll tell you what I think I told you the last time. By announcing 12 now, I think it makes it a lot easier once we get to that date on the calendar to go to 16. That way, you'll have 1, 2, 3, and 4 teams, those teams in the top 4, playing home games in the first round of the college football playoff. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to stop at 12. But a game this weekend, before we whip it around here, Timmy B, Miami going to A&M. A&M's got to get off the mat after losing to App State. Miami without their top receiver, Xavier Restrepo. We know how talented Tyler Van Dyke is. It seems like the run game they're starting to figure out there in Miami. Biggest game Jimbo Fisher's ever coached outside of the national championship game going on this weekend, Timmy B? What do you think?
It's way up there. I mean, it's way up there. And listen, the problem he has is Miami's got a quarterback, and right now he doesn't. It's time. I mean, you got LSU's former starter.
He's starting this weekend, Timmy B. They just announced it. He's starting. We're going to see.
All right. Well, he should start.
Yes,
I agree. He should have been starting from the jump. I mean, this is a kid that's gone on the road and won, in the swamp at a time when nobody gave LSU a chance to beat Florida, and Florida had a chance to play for an opportunity to get into the playoff. Had they won that game and gone in and beaten Alabama in the SEC title game, and they were pretty competitive in that game with Alabama, you might recall. So, yeah, this is a very important game. I like Miami largely because of, the difference at quarterback. And because, Max is a really good, serviceable quarterback. He understands the game. He knows the checkdowns. He'll remain composed. But I don't think he's got the talent that the Miami quarterback does. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Mario getting the job done. And now what do you do, A&M? Now what do? You
go play Arkansas on a neutral site.
Good luck. My God. Yeah, good luck with that. How's that rivalry gone for you? Okay. You've been talking about beating Alabama. Hell, you haven't even conquered Arkansas on a regular basis. And guess what? Arkansas right now, along with Kentucky, man, oh man, those are 2 of the hottest teams in the country right now. They know who they are. Okay. Teams that have an understanding of who and what they are going to be very, very effective early in seasons. And that's what we're seeing around the country right now. That's what happened to Missouri when they played Kansas State. Okay. K-State knows who they are. Kleiman's done a hell of a job. Okay. So there's examples of programs like Kentucky and Arkansas outside the SEC. And those teams are teams you don't want to play early in the season because they're frankly ahead of you because they know who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Identity.
I want to go back to the playoff discussion for 1 second, Tim, because I'm from Statesboro, Georgia, okay? Georgia Southern University paid our bills growing up.
Eagle Creek.
I watched Irk Russell and Paul Johnson win half a dozen national championships there. Now, that's when it was Division I and 1AA, but it didn't bother that community that they were winning 1AA national championships. We knew they weren't going to go into Athens and beat the Georgia Bulldogs. Right. They weren't going to be national champions in the Division I category, but they were still winning a lot of national championships in Division 1AA. So even if we see a playoff scenario go to 16 teams, let's say, that's still a fraction of the 130 college football programs there are. The NFL, the MLB, the National Basketball Association, half of those teams make the playoffs every year. And even in the Final Four in basketball, when you can get 64 or 4 playoff teams in to go up to 68, that's almost half of the college basketball programs there are. So even 16, I just don't know if some of these smaller programs are going to be able to compete in football. But if they had a group of 5 championship, wouldn't that at least give them an opportunity to be champions at the end of the year?
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario that you paint. And by the way, that first one with Tracy Ham in '85 played in Tacoma, Washington. I want to say it was Arkansas State that year. Larry Lacewell was the coach. Yours truly was calling that game.
Yes.
And I was 29 years old and happy as a lark to be doing it. And Irk was something special, man. He really was. And they played Furman, I want to say, and beat them, the Purple Paladins, maybe a year later. Or 2 years later, but right in that group, 85 and 86, I think they won back-to-back. Here's the problem, okay? if you were to try to separate from Division I, quote unquote, CFP Power League members, if you were to do that and try to form your own championship, how does that play in the marketplace from a television standpoint? I don't think it would play very well. I think they're better off, okay, playing these kinds of games. And I think Division I, we talk often about having these SEC and Big Ten teams playing each other over and over again, that it should be just these same 40 teams playing one another. No, that's not going to work either, because there are not enough home dates there. These leagues are made up of teams who can't have anything less than 7 home games every year. So there's not enough conference games to play for you to have 7 home games without playing a team like a Georgia Southern or in Ohio State's case this week, Toledo. Okay, that's who I've got tomorrow here in Columbus. So I think the revenues derived from those quote unquote so-called money games that I know so many people loathe, we won't have as many of them, but we will have some of them.
Okay.
And I think we should embrace some of them. Okay. Now, if they wanted to have their own group of 5 championship within playing in the Division I structure, okay. But what I'm saying to you is, if you just separated completely from the Power 5 games and went totally away from the money games that you play, I don't think that that's marketable, because there are certain teams in Division I right now that can be great football teams that don't rate well on television. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why the playoff, I think, will go to 16, because we need more inventory to make more money for college football. But right now, it's a tough sale in the television market to say we're going to expand to 12 or 16, because right now the semifinal games have sucked. Okay, the ratings on those games have not been up to what they need to be. And as a result, the television people can say to the college football playoff, hey, if you don't give us more inventory, this is the money you're going to get.
Yeah,
okay?
And I like that.
The Big Ten was able to make its money, and the SEC was able to make its money because they deliver so many teams that rate well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not the case. For instance, the Big 12 is great. And I think the competition level in the Big 12 is better than any other league besides the SEC and the Big 10. All right. But it doesn't rate as well because of the market sizes. Manhattan, Kansas, Stillwater, Oklahoma, Norman, Oklahoma,
Ames, Iowa,
Waco, Texas, Ames, Iowa. They don't measure up to San Francisco, Seattle, and so on. You get my drift? So that's the dilemma that faces the business end of the point you're trying to make. And I agree that it's a decent one. And I remember doing those games and it was wonderful, but I don't think we're going to go back. I think you just got to be part of the future and embrace that. If they want to separate and have their own, hey, let's take the top 4 from those schools outside the Big 4 conferences, go get you some. And if it does well and proves that it can, maybe television will embrace it, but I don't think it will right now.
Yeah. Well, you bring up Norman. Oklahoma goes to Nebraska this weekend. Tim, I know Nebraska has a lot of problems right now. They just fired Scott Frost, but I have seen this movie before. I've seen a group of young men rally behind a coach at home in a rivalry game, in a blue blood rivalry game. What do you expect from Nebraska a week after losing to Georgia Southern, firing their head coach, with the Sooners coming to town?
You from Midland.
I expect Nebraska to play its ass off. Okay, I expect them to bring everything that they've got, and I know Mickey Joseph pretty well, and he will rally those guys. All right, and a year ago about this time, well, it was a little further into the season. It was November. Okay, and Spencer and I were getting ready to go into Fort Worth. They fired Gary Patterson on a Monday and told Jerry Kill, his old friend, who had joined him after he had left for medical reasons, Minnesota, you got to coach this team, okay? And this kid, Chandler Morris, took over at quarterback and just was on fire all day, and he cost Baylor really a chance to play in the college football playoff. I mean, that Baylor team was rolling. They had won 6 in a row. They had Oklahoma coming in the next week, and you remember they beat Oklahoma, right? You remember that? But they lost to TCU. Okay, the week that Gary Patterson was let go. And the crowd was into it. The players were into it. it is a rallying cry whenever this happens. It can go one way or the other, okay, the emotions of teams. But in college football, when these kinds of decisions are made, you see either a team roll over, which was the case last year at USC, or you see a team that just drives it up, amps it up. And that's what happened at TCU. And they beat Baylor, and then Baylor did in they beat Oklahoma. And had it not been for that loss to TCU, they would have been not only the champions of the Big 12, but they would have been in the playoff rather than Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I think that there's a very good chance that Nebraska, 2 reasons, that one and Gus Johnson is calling the game. If Gus is going to be there, it's going to be a close game. He always gets the close game. So I think it's going to be a great one on Fox tomorrow.
Yeah, and nothing scarier than somebody with nothing to lose.
Yeah.
And when you lose a head coach, it's really just the players and the fans. You kind of rally together. Well, he's not here anymore. We'll always be here.
Yeah, no.
We're always here. But go ahead, B.
All right, I'm going to go straight to the Booster Club here, Timmy B. We're going to go to Josh. He has a question for you. If BYU goes undefeated, do they make the college football playoff over, say, a one-loss Michigan or a one-loss Ohio State team?
They should.
No, they should, but they won't. No.
Yeah.
Now, if that team happens to be, let's say that 4th team happens to be Cincinnati, it's not going to be. They lost the game. But if that 4th team is not a brand name, there's an excellent chance that they could do it. It all depends on who that team that's vying for the 4th position is. It cannot be a brand, all right? The brand always wins in this 14 format. But look at who BYU has to play. And I had Baylor penciled in as my number 4 team, and I don't think they're done. I think there's a potential that they could win every game they've got left. I thought during that game, and I stayed up and watched most of it, I thought they tried too hard to make Blake Shapen, a great quarterback in one game. Offensively, I thought they should have continued to run the ball a little bit more, controlled the game, played complementary football. But BYU is massive, and I think they found out that defensively that team up front is just hard to move. And that's going to be a whale of a game tomorrow, too, that BYU-Oregon game really is. Because if BYU beats Oregon, then you need to put them in the sleeper position for the Final Four. Mm-hmm. They have the potential, of running the table. I think that's a team that is hardwired schedule-wise to run the table and be that team. Now, they're not in the Big 12 yet, but they will be. And, again, what a great move by them. You look at those teams that the Big 12 has, waiting in the wings to come in. They're all playing well. I mean, they really are.
Definitely. Well, Timmy B, appreciate it, man. I know you're busy. I can sit here and talk to you all day. Got a big one, Toledo, Ohio State. Those games are always interesting. They're always interesting.
Almost beat Notre Dame. Toledo almost beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame last year.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, and again, let's not act like Ohio State is invincible right now. I know even against Arkansas State, they didn't cover the spread. They're still trying to work some things out. I know Jackson Smith and Jigba, is going to be good this weekend. Julian Fleming's going to be coming back. There it is.
Look at that.
I don't know if that's either a blueprint for a house or a call board. That's right. See, Timmy B, I don't think people really realize what goes into it when you're calling a game and the things you have to know. It's not just, hey, all right, well, they ran the ball. That's a good play. That was number 17, Don Wilson. That's not exactly how it works.
Beware of DeQuan Finn, number 7. Multi-talented, multi-dimensional quarterback for Toledo. Kendall, their coach, has done a great job. The last time they played Ohio State, they had the ball at the 16-yard line in 2011 and were stopped on downs going in for a go-ahead touchdown, at the very end of the game. Listen, last year, Tulsa was like a 30-point dog. It was the same week, and they came in here, and with 10 minutes left, they were down 5. They wound up losing by 21, but this is the right time to play teams like Ohio State. And after what the Sun Belt did last week, the MAC is saying, it's our time.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But Timmy B, good luck on the call. Thanks so much for getting up with us, my friend. Everybody check out Toledo versus Ohio State. We'll try and get you on next week if you got time.
Great being with you, pal. Anytime.
Yes, sir. Hall of Famer Tim Brando.
Thanks, man.
One of our best interviews. It's always great to get Tim on. Blaine, you know what? Let's go to the Booster Club real quick.
I'm pretty sure we're all positive Ohio State's going to murder Toledo. Maybe that's just,
I wouldn't be.
We're not all positive.
I'm pretty positive about it.
Are you Aladdin?
Are you Aladdin?
Are you Aladdin?
You are showing ankles. So.
Yeah, well, you saw ankle bone?
Yeah, he's like, let's go to Bucknut. All right.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to ask Timmy, but well, too bad you're going to ask us.
Okay.
All right. He said after the first couple weeks. All right. Actually, I just put that in there. But after the first couple weeks, where do you rate Mississippi State right now in the SEC?
I need to see it against LSU, but I'm just telling you guys. Will Rogers, you got Zach Arnett, which you don't know if that's the defensive coordinator for Mississippi State or one of the guys from Saved by the Bell. But they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Now, the depth I worry about for Mississippi State a little bit. Can they run? Will Mike Leach try and run the ball enough to keep balance on offense and take a little bit of pressure off Will Rogers throughout the course of the SEC? Because we know Mike Leach, good friend of the show, guy we've had on, came up to the dojo while we were at SEC Media Days in the hotel, took his shoes off, sat down, hung out by the Zen Garden, and we got some answers. But will they commit to the run enough throughout the course of the SEC season? Because we see Mike Leach win games that he shouldn't and then lose games that he shouldn't. But Will Rogers, woo!
Look,
Will Rogers.
passes of under 5 yards, those are runs to Mike Leach.
That's true.
So,
modified
he's like,
runs. They do have a lot of
run game.
modified runs.
I threw it under 5 yards to him in spacing concept, okay? Mike Leach has given me parental advice, so he's basically like a grandfather. I wish him all the success in the world.
Well, he really is like, he's considered one of Ace's grandfathers.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
That's a pretty cool grandpa to have.
Be able
Grandpa
to watch
Mike.
from now on. Ace will forever be able to watch Mike Leach give advice for me to get the laser pointer to tire Adam out.
And that was great advice.
Mississippi State over 100 rushing yards the first 2 weeks.
That's what I'm saying. Will they stick with it in these big games? Will they go to LSU? Will Mike Leach say, we can run the draw a couple times. Let's maybe a couple perimeter runs. Maybe sneak in a jet sweep in the air raid. What's going on? Where am I? Who are we?
All right, Midnight Crane to Georgia. Choo-choo. Is Texas A&M on a death spiral? And does Arkansas walk into BYU angry on a 3-game skid?
Does Arkansas walk into BYU angry? I hope they don't go on a 3-game skid. I got them as the third best team in the SEC. The secondary need to shore it up a little bit like you're in Jersey. I mean, the 3-down rush, I'm not huge on with Barry Odom. You got to take care of KJ, but Arkansas's done everything they've needed to do so far. So, you can, like I said, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. A&M, are they in a death spiral? We'll find out after this week. You lose one game you shouldn't in App State. You bounce back, have a big win against Miami. Rejuvenated. Hey, we're back. It was a mistake. She meant nothing to me. Let's move on and stick with what we got. I wouldn't call it a death spiral yet, but they're, hanging by a moment here with you. Okay? That is a Lifehouse lyric. And I do know that whole
Absolute
song.
banger of a song. All right, we had a question from Brock McNeil. What's up, Brock?
B-Rock.
Hashtag asked him, but hashtag you're asking us. Am I a big Notre Dame fan? Because, no. Am I a big Notre Dame fan? Spelled that wrong. That's fine. Does Tommy Rees' awful play calling have something to do with their struggles?
Wait, are they asking us if they're a big Notre Dame fan?
No, he just spelled it wrong. He's a big Notre Dame.
Oh, he is. It's a statement. Okay.
Here's the thing with Buckner, and this is what I said before the year. Everybody's like, oh, well, Buckner's dual threat, guy that can run, throws it good enough. Whenever somebody says he throws it good enough, and I haven't seen him enough, I don't just trust you off the rip. Buckner struggled not only going through progressions, but making simple passes consistently. And you saw that against Marshall. It seemed like everything in the pass game for Notre Dame, you were having to just pull it out. Like an interrogation where the person's not saying anything, you're just having to pull information out of it, go through the mental gymnastics of trying to find a way to get it done. I think Drew Pine is more in Tommy Rees's style of, we need to be able to have a competent passing game, and I always use the word balance and have some semblance of balance, but Buckner was a runner that attempted to throw. Drew Pine is a passer, not a pastor. He does go to Notre Dame. It could be priest, excuse me. He's a passer that has the capability to be a good enough runner. I think Tommy Rees, the way he calls plays, it's more suited for a Drew Pine than it is for a Tyler Buckner. I just think that's how it is. And again, I'll say it. Play calling is very overrated. It's very overrated. It's important, but it's very overrated. I will take talent over play calling every single day of the week. That's why there's just not one scheme that always wins. Because if it was the other way around, there'd be one scheme that always did better than the other ones, and everybody would be trying to trick everybody outside of that. It's not how it works. But
Marcus Freeman has converted to Catholicism now.
Like somebody
he's
was like,
bought in.
somebody's like, what do you think about this? Be like, I don't
He needs
care.
to convert to winning games.
Yeah, well, you need
I think that's why he started.
Well, you need to convert. You need to convert on third downs. What you need to do. But again, if Marcus Freeman wants to be a Catholic, if he wants to, I don't know, worship a pencil with an afro on the eraser, I don't care. I'm here to talk about sports, not who you pray to or whatever. So anyway, I'm not going to trick you guys. If you want to watch the rest of this, remember the audio will stay here. We're also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe. Head to the Daily Wire Plus, all right? Because what's better than having a good day plus an even better day? That's what you get at Daily Wire Plus. All right, so go to there, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, subscribe. Leave a 5-star review. And right now, I want you to take that like button and like Derrick Henry going downhill when the Titans actually give him the ball when it matters, I want you to smash that like button. You smash it really hard. You put it on injured reserve so it can't come back and make a play against you in the playoffs. Blaine, let's get to the Booster Club, and then we're going to roll a video. I think you guys are going to really find this interesting. With Hooters CMO, Bruce Scala, they have just signed a bunch of NIL deals with offensive linemen across the country and John Daly's son. And he also had a surprise for us during the middle of the interview, so don't go anywhere. But Blaine, Booster Club, questions,
all right,
answers,
Travis
friendship,
Elrod, T. Elrod, hashtag Ask Crane and Company. Now with Scott Frost gone, who has the hottest seat in college football right now?
Oh, Brian Harson's is hot. Mm-hmm. It's hot. It's like you can't tell it's hot. It's not red or anything, but if you go up and touch it, you're like, oh! It's like they tell you to feel the door during a fire. Like, is there a fire? I don't know. Let me feel the door. There is an absolute fire behind there. Brian Harsin, them don't beat Penn State. We're going to be picking that game in a second. It's going to be, hotter than Gal Gadot and the girl, Margot Robbie, hanging out just drinking margaritas on the beach, which seems like a really good time. But don't tell Rita I said that. Anyways, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, me neither.
Actually, I totally forgot the question now that we were talking about that.
Oh, you kind of.
Scott Satterfield's seat is hot. I think Dino Babers has gotten off the hot seat a little bit. There's some others. I mean, you look at the guy, I believe, at UNLV right now. It's like 3-17. They had high hopes. I still don't understand how you can't win at UNLV in football. It doesn't make sense.
All right, Kenneth Holt, who's a worse offensive coordinator / play caller, Jimbo Fisher or Bill O'Brien?
Okay,
got to pick.
Who's worse?
Yeah,
I'm having a hard time because people look at 1 year and they're like, oh, terrible play caller. Terrible play caller. But they don't look at the whole career of somebody. Like that's my problem we have with it, but that's just how we are in society. If I had to pick somebody to call plays, I would rather have Bill O'Brien call it than Jimbo Fisher. I just laugh at the Bill O'Brien. Hey, people just totally forget that he went to Penn State after all that crazy stuff with Sandusky and all that and had basically half the scholarships to everybody else and somehow won 8 games. He could have called plays then. I guess he just totally went Drew Barrymore and just forgot after that. He's the OC at Bama. That's why I laughed. They're like, Jimbo Fisher sucks at calling plays. Bill O'Brien's a terrible play caller. Yeah, he's such a terrible play caller that Nick Saban hired him to call the plays. That's why Texas fans are like, oh, man, Jimbo Fisher and Bill O'Brien, they can't call plays even close to Sark. Well, you know who hired Sark? Nick Saban did. That's who hired. You know who hired Bill O'Brien and Jimbo Fisher? Nick Saban then. Congrats, you're dumb in 3 languages. It's a venti. Anyways, speaking of dumb, you want to know something that goes dumb? Wings from Hooters. Okay, you want to know something that's not dumb, that's smart? Doing NIL deals that help out student athletes. Our buddy Bruce Scala, the CMO of Hooters, joined us to talk about very quickly about the NIL deals they did, why they did them. It's a very fascinating conversation, and I think there's something halfway through that you guys will really like. Let's roll the Hooters interview. Bruce Scala, CMO, NIL, friendship, lost. Let's play it. And in the world of NIL, the way it's changing college sports, we've already obviously talked about the transfer portal, conference realignment, the rules being shaded to help the offense, stuff that even Brett Favre will agree with, as you can see on the show. We're very excited. Mr. Bruce Scala himself from Hooters. Bruce, what's up?
What's up, guys?
Man, we appreciate you taking the time, man. I know you guys have kind of been all over the place with NIL, getting the brand out there as well. And I want to start really, what made you guys want to jump into this space? Was it the ability to be involved with college athletes and be able to help them in ways outside of, when they get done playing in college?
Well, we wanted to first take a look at how it was going to work out, because it first started out with only the star athletes being rewarded. And we had a relationship with John Daly, and that really started it, that I wanted to make that official relationship take it a step further. And with his son being at the University of Arkansas, and him playing golf against Charlie Woods and Tiger Woods. That was our first initial NIL deal. And that got us thinking about how we could take it to football and the collegiate level, but we didn't want to do it the normal route of identifying 1 to 2 players who are the star players of the teams. We wanted to take a completely different approach and identify units. And who are the guys that stick together as a unit the most on a football team? And that's really the offensive linemen. So we decided to identify our stores that were near universities, and found 10 great universities and signed over 50 college offensive linemen to NIL deals.
Smart.
Yeah, it's great. The linemen don't get enough love. I always say in this show that the game is won and lost up front. And on the other hand, they're definitely the guys on the team that eat the most wings, burgers, and fries.
I'm looking around our store, and I'm going, these are the guys who are there.
That's exactly.
The big guys who do all the work. Not saying that you don't have to be big to go to Hooters and enjoy our wings, but there's a number of guys who like to go there with their buddies, watch games, and it was a perfect match.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And obviously, what you guys did with the dailies was awesome. Being able to watch, John's son as well grow up and play. We know how good he's going to be. But, I do got to ask you, Bruce, while I got you here. My personal favorite is the Daytona-style wings, all right? When I go to Hooters, I know exactly what I'm getting. I'm sitting down. I want the fries. I want a cold soda, and hook me up with some of those Daytona wings. I want to ask you, I guess this may be like picking your favorite kid, but what is your favorite type of wing flavor at Hooters? Because they're all good.
Well, since you mentioned Daytona, why don't we cue it and bring him in?
Oh, let's do it.
We got some Daytona wings for you boys.
Really?
Stop it.
We did. No, this is so much better than the hot dogs.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce.
You can set it down right there. I'm going to eat these immediately after Bruce.
I don't know what other guests you guys have planned for today, but I'm going to take it right now.
Wait, did you tell him in advance?
This is what I said. There's some times where like a plan comes together perfectly. I did not plan this. I think this has Justine and Bruce's fingers all over it.
We got you guys covered.
This is like the grown-up version of the marshmallow test, where however long you can keep from eating them, the more you're rewarded after.
This is casual. I want you guys to eat, snack while we talk. So.
Yeah, I'm glad to say, Bruce. Look, listen, you give me Daytona wings.
My personal favorite is roasted with spicy garlic.
Oh, that's classy. That's classy. Figure it out.
Are you drums or flats, Bruce?
I'm all. Let's do it.
Yeah.
God, I love it. I don't discriminate either. Oh, my goodness. Well, Justine, we are definitely eating these right now, and then I'm going to eat the rest of them after. Speaking of having your fingers all over.
Oh, God,
and
Bruce,
Cone, if you ever compare Daytona wings to marshmallows again, I will physically have to come over there.
I didn't compare. I said the situation.
Oh, okay.
Well, how good those
this is a much better situation.
Oh, my
all right,
goodness.
Cone, ask a question while I dive in.
Cherokee, the makeup artist in the back right now.
Yeah, if you haven't had Daytona wings at Hooters, you need to grow up and figure it out. But Cone, go ahead, ask questions.
Well done, sir. All right, you're welcome back anytime. Second of all, kudos to you for sponsoring the offensive linemen, okay? Yeah. Quarterbacks are overrated. That's what I always say.
I agree.
What's the strategy here as you move forward? Are you going to continue with the unit play here with offensive and defensive linemen?
Yeah, I think we're going to, these offensive linemen have already gone into our stores. We've already filmed them. We've got content. They're going to be posting the day before a game, the day of the game, inviting fans to watch the game at Hooters or to pick up food to watch it at their tailgate or enjoy it at their tailgate.
Smart.
And then the next round of that is, I want these guys to get the quarterback to retweet it. The guy who's got a lot of followers, if they do that, they all get a kicker. So, hey, you want your blind side protected? Yeah. Help me, I'll help you. It's all going to work out.
I tell you what, this is working out beautiful.
I love this. Here's what a lot of our listeners want to know: the logistics of how NIL works. Because when this first started out, I was a big proponent of collegiate athletes being able to profit off of their name, image, and likeness directly from brands like yourself, and not getting that confused with pay for play. Essentially, a school saying, hey, we have a certain amount of money ready for you the second that you commit to us. That's a completely separate issue. Name, image, and likeness should be kept separate. Can you break down the logistics for people? Once you've identified the offensive lineman, you've done your due diligence, you know that they're not going to represent the brand in a negative way. How does it work for them to be able to be sponsored by Hooters?
Yeah, so once we identified the schools and the units, we made it very clear that we're not signing 1 to 2 people, that you need to have 3 to 7 of your offensive linemen come to us as a group. That's step one, because that mixed in with our strategy of a unit. Second, each university has a different policy. They may want us as the sponsor to deal directly with the university. Other universities want us to deal directly with the athletes. Other universities want us to deal directly with a third party. So it was different across all 10 schools.
Wow.
Then we had to make contact. We kind of laid out the parameters of the deal, what we wanted, what they received. And then we scheduled some media training days. And we had everything from schools which let us use their football jerseys in the spots, and other ones that said, no, you can't use it.
Sure.
And we provided them with Hooters football jerseys. Others wanted the let's say a conference logo blurred out, but we could use their school logo.
Okay.
So it's all across the board, great learning. And again, this is step one for us. I think we're going to expand into this in other areas. We're very into women's empowerment. There's a very large women's, obviously, athletic athletes out there we'd like to take a look at. So there's a lot to come in the future for Hooters.
That's interesting to say, Bruce, tell us that some of the schools wanted to be involved, some of them wanted to go directly to the athlete.
Yeah, well, it's, again, especially when it's so brand new, too, finding out different ways. You talk about the female side of it as well, Bruce. I mean, females are making as much, if not more, right now off NIL than males are, and it's huge as somebody that's engaged to somebody that wrote equestrian in college. I mean, being able to get that extra money to help not only with paying for school, but for saddles, like for equestrian, for the gymnasts and stuff like that. It's just a win all around. And I also have to say this, not going to lie, guys, been a long day, all right? Had a lot going on.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't dragging through. I wake up every morning and try to approach every day with the excellence and a little bit of violence. But that one, that absolutely woke me back.
Wow.
I tell you what.
Well done, sir.
Yeah, that was well done, Bruce. We appreciate that. And what's going to happen to that is, you can see that on Jurassic Park 4 after we get off here. But Bruce, I do got to ask you before we kick it over to Blaine. I know the Booster Club absolutely loves Hooters. We give you guys a shout out every now and then. It's one of our favorite places to go. But I want your overall thoughts on the first weekend, really, of college football. I mean, did anything stand out to you? Kind of what are a few headlines that you kind of came away from the weekend saying, you know what? That it's nice to know that.
Yeah, I think preseason rankings are irrelevant.
They are.
Fact.
I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. I think Oregon's the best example of that. They came in ranked and they're leaving unranked and getting a good whooping on them.
Yep.
So I think, for us, I think we need to, as a fan, I don't think we can rank people until a few weeks into the season, and then you start moving up the ladder and figuring out what's going to happen. So I love college football. I love the NFL. I love watching all the games at Hooters, and I encourage all your listeners, hit it hard. We're here waiting for you.
That's exactly right. Again, I never forget when I was in Marietta making the short drives over to the Hooters on Saturdays and catching the games from 11, staying there a while, getting some good beverages, if you know what I'm saying, and obviously some really great food. You can go ahead
Mine
and
was
guess.
Holcomb Bridge Road.
There it is. There it is.
You guys used to come over Holcomb Bridge over to Roswell.
You really are Dr. Strange. Blaine, what do you got going?
Well, yeah, one, please don't eat any more of my wings.
First off, watch your mouth.
And two, Bruce, I got a simple question. How did the relationship start with the dailies, and how did y'all get to the point where y'all decided that y'all wanted to sponsor them?
Yeah, we've had John's been a longstanding fan of Hooters, and it made sense to solidify the relationship and have him carrying a Hooters branded bag out on tour. During the week of Augusta and the Masters, he sets up camp and sells his merchandise at our store. And it's part of the tradition of going to the Masters, of stopping by Hooters and saying hey to John Daly. And we love that. And then with his son, it made all the sense in the world, especially with the PNC Championship taking place in December, with them being reigning champions and the rematch taking place. We had John Daly Jr. He caddied for John at the Open at the British Open this year, wearing a Hooters branded hat. Got millions of impressions, and it just keeps parlaying. The relationship is fantastic, and John's a great ambassador for us.
It fits well, that's for sure.
Yeah, it does. They do say if you eat at Hooters right after you play 18, when you go out to the course, you actually drive the ball better. It makes you drive
I
plus
need to
2.
do that, though.
It's like the mustache in baseball, man. It adds a couple miles per hour.
Have y'all not been doing that this entire time?
I mean, I knew that's why you grew the mustache.
I usually go before and after.
You go before
Really?
and
And
after.
sometimes if I get to the turn, I'll see how much time we have.
If we had a Hooters like card person.
He's trying to get an NIL deal.
That's exactly right. Blaine's angling.
Please.
We have something like that for you guys.
There we go. Well, Bruce, again, you guys are always kind of on the cutting edge of this stuff, and the way you guys have blended yourself into sports, especially now, today in society, sports is something that's obviously still huge in the fabric of us and in our DNA, and having you guys support it, whether that's, the women's part of it, whether it's the golf part of it, but showing love. I do want to go back to this before we wrap it up. Showing love to the offensive line lets me know you guys know the game within the game, and I think that's fantastic, and you guys continue to put out such a great product. And again, man, we appreciate the wings. We appreciate your time, and everybody needs to go to Hooters. Just trust me. If you haven't been, welcome to planet Earth.
Yes.
Find somebody that has transportation. Go down there and check it out. Get to Daytona Wings and tell them the guys from Crane & Company sent you. Bruce, did I leave anything out?
Check out Chase Elliott driving the Hooters number 9 car at Bristol.
Okay.
Definitely. We need to get Chase on the show.
Yeah.
Let's get Chase on the show. We'll have wings and everything.
Let's do that.
It'll be great. Bruce, we really appreciate your time, brother. You guys are doing an unbelievable job, and let's do this again soon.
Thanks, guys. See you.
Bruce Scala, a guy I'm sure we're going to have back on. Hooters, great stuff. Daytona Wings are absolutely my favorite. Blaine, Booster Club, very quickly, hurry. Then I want to make Saturday picks.
Tempo, we going tempo here?
Tempo, NASCAR. Get lined up.
We had a $4.99 donation from Drew Sign that our producer accidentally deleted. So I don't know what you said.
What's going on back there,
I don't know what you said, Drew, but I appreciate the donation, my brother.
Put it in there again, Drew. We'll read the question.
We can figure out, man. I'll definitely get it asked.
No, there's somebody doing some up downs.
Let's go to Garce,
We're gonna run the whole
a.k.a.
team.
Cones Heisman. Hashtag Ask Crane & Company. Cone, if I'm right, you were a Heisman candidate.
Yes, not a winner, not a finalist. Those are very specific
That's
things.
true. You were a candidate.
Candidate.
I love it. It's an honor to be in your presence.
All right, hashtag Ask Crane & Company. If Matt Rule isn't on the hot seat, what NFL coach gets fired this year if it's not Matt Rule? So it says,
I think Matt Rule is on the hot seat, but Mike McCarthy for the Cowboys, because why not? Why not get him out and bring somebody in there and say yes even more to Jerry? To me, Mike McCarthy's the guy you've got to look at and say, all right, if they go, because it's not looking like it may be a bad year. It's looking like it could be a 5-alarm fire. I've got a stage 5 clinger. Save me.
I stood up for Mike McCarthy when he got hired for that job because
You
a
did.
lot of
I'm
people
still
said,
upset
that was
about
just, he has a Super Bowl because Aaron Rodgers was his quarterback in Green Bay. And I mean, Mike McCarthy did a lot of things schematically on offense in Green Bay that I was a fan of. I thought that he could come in and have success in Dallas. Looked like that's not going to be the case, and Dallas fans can say they told me so.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike McCarthy's got to be the leader in the clubhouse, right?
yeah, I would think so, definitely. Let's go to Carson Everett. All right, hashtag Ask David Cone. David, has the landscape of tennis changed with Federer retiring?
Of course, because he's such an icon in the game. But the last year or two, he's been injured so much that he hasn't really been a main competitor to Nadal and Djokovic. Now, Djokovic isn't even able to attend a lot of these major championships because of the COVID situation. And Nadal, they're all getting old. Nadal is banged up and hurt. So, look, tennis is changing right before our eyes. That's why I want everyone who is a fan of tennis, even if you're not a fan of tennis, if you're not a fan of tennis and you don't watch the sport, at least pay attention to what's going on right now. Because it's essentially the same as having Tiger Woods in his prime in golf, or at least when he was still winning championships, but with 2 other Tiger Woods added on top.
Exactly.
We're not
Jack
going
Nicklaus.
to see it again.
Yeah, and Arnold Palmer. Well, it's just unfortunately for Djokovic, since he's not allowed to be there, he doesn't have a shot.
And it's not right, because he probably would have won Australia this year, and he probably would have just won the U.S. Open, to be honest.
And that was wordplay. Blaine,
All right, Tempo, hashtag Ask Crane & Company. Which company would you love to be sponsored by as a college player?
As a college player? Ooh, Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, Vanguard.
Yeah.
All the money.
Yeah, I want to be sponsored by the stock market. Yeah, that's what I'd like to be. But no, Goldman Sachs. Somebody, Victoria's Secret would be pretty sweet. Even though I wouldn't be wearing the stuff, I'd be sponsored by them.
Are you sure?
Are you sure?
It sounds like you're gonna. It sounds like you would wear
you guys,
the stuff.
I knew the minute that came out of my mouth.
It sounds like you would wear the stuff.
I knew the minute that came out of my mouth.
I love tackles and lace.
Here comes the Twitter
You know what?
memes.
Move on.
Here comes the Twitter
Move on,
memes.
for the love of God.
You know what?
Please
I would
move
want
on.
Hooters to sponsor me after eating those ones.
That is true.
Shout out to our boy
I'd want
Bruce.
2 things. I'd want to be sponsored by the Daily Wire and Ranch, Hidden Valley.
Well, you got one of them.
One of them worked out. So.
One of them. Well, you got good ranchers.
What are you doing?
You got good ranchers, so we're getting close. We're beating around the bush.
Colleen Houston says Mike McCarthy peaked as a coach when he smashed a watermelon before playing the Vikings a couple years ago.
Yeah, well, again, Mike McCarthy, a lot of it is not just who you are, it's where you work. Like, and you're now with the Cowboys, so good luck. Like, the input that you had with the Packers, a team that's owned by the people that don't know how to call plays, really. You go to Jerry Jones, who thinks he knows how to call plays. Jerry Jones probably couldn't even draw up inside zone. But they make a Shakey's Pizza, and it'll sell you some NFTs. One more.
All right, let's go to Marvelous Marvin. Yes, Chad, I did lose the Gal Gadot bet. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Marvelous Marvin
receipts.
says, hashtag Ask Crane and Company. Why are some coaches good college coaches but are bad in the pros, are likewise good pro coaches but are bad at the college level?
A lot of it depends on the person. That's a good question. In college, it's a lot easier to have more control, right? You can have more control over the organization. There is no GM. You have an AD, but most time the AD is going to hire you. I believe in you. Give me a good mission statement and go do your work. I'll check in on you every Tuesday. Just like with the Cowboys, there is no Jerry Jones at Alabama. Now, so that's what with the periphery, right? Now, you have boosters and stuff. You have money people, but winning cures everything. We know that. A lot of it is personality. So you have the control over the peripheral stuff, right? The fundraising, practice schedule, everything that goes on, the buck stops with you. Then you have the player aspect. In the NFL, there's not a whole lot of coaches that are yelling and dog cussing players. That's not how that works. You see it a lot more in college. Why is that? Because even with NIL now in college, players in the NFL are making more than the head coach most of the time. So the power balance is a little bit different. Not saying that the coach isn't in charge, but you have to go about it a lot different way, and it takes a different type of personality sometimes, especially when you go from college, where you can get away with being harder on guys, where you can get away with being more forceful and stuff like that. Then you get into the NFL, and you've got a 28-year-old who's been to the Pro Bowl 3 times that's making $3.5 million a year and has 4 kids and a family and a mortgage and stuff like that. That's a little bit different. That happens in the NFL and at BYU.
I say this all the time. College football and the NFL, they're the same sport. They're different games.
Totally different.
They're different games. What's the single biggest factor, depending on your success or failure when you're playing any athletics, is the players you have on the team.
Exactly.
Well, the selection process for the NFL and college football is completely different. It couldn't be more different. College athletes decide where they want to go. NFL players are drafted or signed as free agents. That's why Nick Saban would say, why would I want to go coach in the NFL and get 1 first-round draft pick when I can go coach in college and sign 10 of them?
That's exactly right. And again, that's why I think when you have guys like Pete Carroll that's had success in both, it just shows you it's one of the hardest things to do. That is the biggest compliment you can give a coach, is that you were able to have Barry Switzer in college and the NFL. Guys that are able to go from college to the NFL or the NFL from college and have success, that is a huge feather in the cap because it's not easy to do. That's like having a restaurant where you sell wings and ribs and stuff and it does well, and then you go over and open a vegan restaurant that does just as well. It's not that easy. Totally different type of worker you have to hire and stuff like that. So anyways, let's get into these selections. We're going to pick our winners for 4 games. These aren't our bets, all right? It's a little bit of kind of game day-ish a little bit. Just going to pick it straight up, all right? Cone, I'll start us off. BYU, Oregon. Blaine, you said you think BYU wins.
Yep.
Think it's a 3.5-point spread. Give me Oregon at home.
Really?
Give me Oregon at home.
You've been singing BYU's praises.
I have, but that schedule, look, you've played a couple big games already. I know Romney is still beat up. Pico Nakua is still beat up. You're going to Oregon that got absolutely embarrassed. They're at home. Bo Nix finds a way to run around and make enough plays like Oregon in this game.
I'll take BYU as well on the road.
They win this one?
Yeah.
They win this one. You got Notre Dame, you got Arkansas. I just don't see a way when they go undefeated that they wouldn't get in with that schedule.
Give me a team that plays disciplined football. That's the one I want.
And look, Kalani Sitake is doing a great job over there. All right, I'm going to add this one in there. Kansas and Houston. I just want to throw that in there. Kansas and Houston.
To win the football game.
To win the football game. Kansas, the Daniels kid at quarterback, Lance Leopold's done a really good job since leaving Buffalo to go there to Kansas. I think Houston wins this one, though. They've been in a lot of close games. They played in 2 overtime games. They've won both of them. Give me Houston by less than 6.
I'll take Houston as well. Clayton Tune at quarterback, even though I'm not picking against Kansas not to cover any more spreads. That's for sure.
They could be this
Yeah,
year's
give me
Arkansas.
Houston, but Kansas covers at 9.5. Give me Houston.
I did get it 10.5 on the sharp, which y'all know that I'll drop that tomorrow. All right, A&M Miami. Blaine, start with
the
you.
toughest one.
Give me Miami.
Miami.
Taking Miami on the road?
Why?
It's Max Johnson's first start, so we'll see. I want to see how. I know one thing about the Miami team is Van Dyke can play even without their top receiver.
Yeah.
You want me to go?
Yes.
This is the toughest one. I've changed it 3 times on here, okay? I had Miami on the road, Tyler Van Dyke, Mario Cristobal going and getting a big win, but a lot of news broke. Max Johnson's going to get the start. I've been saying, hey, put the kid in. Let's see what he can do. And Miami's leading receiver is now out of the game. I do agree with Jake that the worst thing for Miami was Texas A&M losing last week to Appalachian State. I don't think Texas A&M is a very good football team right now, and it's always tough for me to say a football team that's not that good is going to win the game, but they still have really good athletes. They have a lot of pride. They're playing at home. I'm going to go with Texas A&M right now.
I think they get off the mat. They're a 6-point favorite at home. Vegas, knows something up. They needed a shot in the arm, like we've been saying. Max Johnson's going to get the start. If he plays well, I think you're going to see the talent rise around him. Because, again, confidence is huge with anybody in any stretch in life, but especially an 18 to 22-year-old. A&M's good enough to turn it around. I think Max is good enough and calm enough in the pocket where if they play well, they can put up points. I wouldn't be surprised if A&M dominates this game, to be honest with you, with Miami not having their big-time receiver out there, their security blanket on third down. Don't be shocked to see A&M win by at least a touchdown here. Michigan State, Washington. I've been calling this all offseason. I said Washington's going to win. I've got Washington going 7-2 in the Pac-12. Mel Tucker, they may have a good record against Michigan, but you're going to face Coach DeBoer and them in Washington. Give me the Huskies.
I'm going to trail you on this. My boy Nick Sheridan, tight end coach at Washington. I'm going Washington mostly because Big Game Boomer thinks that Michigan State should be above Michigan, ranked 4, even though they both haven't played anyone, is basically what he was saying. I'm going to go with Washington, even though if Michigan State comes to the Big House undefeated, that's fine too.
Well, Michigan State is a dog in this game. The plus 150, plus 3.5 to cover. So give me Washington, straight money line, minus 162. Don't believe in Michigan State. Don't believe in their defense. And definitely don't believe in their quarterback. Really inconsistent.
Penix Jr., stay healthy. They're going to be a problem. Washington's got some players. They're decent up front. All right, last one before we get to bets. Penn State at Auburn. Looking at this game, I'll go first. Auburn's personnel isn't as good as Penn State's. Even though Joey Porter and them, who are talented in the secondary, have been giving up a lot of pass yards here. They're not ranked very high in passes against. Lucky for them, Auburn struggles at quarterback. But this game is in Jordan-Hare. Crazy things happen in Jordan-Hare. I've seen Auburn teams that weren't that talented beat unbelievably talented teams in Jordan-Hare. They're a 3-point underdog. Questions at quarterback. The offensive line doesn't look very physical. You were down against San Jose State at halftime. Sean Clifford, big win over Purdue. Drew Aller is the backup, the future. Penn State's offensive line, a little nervy about it. Auburn kicks a field goal to win this game.
Really? Auburn.
Give me Auburn.
No, give me Penn State.
Yeah?
For sure. Give me Penn State. I don't know how Auburn's going to score. I really don't. TJ Finley's not going to, you're not going to ride the TJ Finley wave to him throwing you to a win. So unless they say hike and run it every play, then we'll see. But
very possible.
Football games in Jordan-Hare are a top 5 experience in the sport. Unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, go there and experience it. I call it the Bermuda Triangle, man. Weird stuff happens. If you can beat Alabama in Jordan-Hare, you can beat anybody. At the end of the day, though, you still have to play football. You still have to play football. I think Sean Clifford comes down, makes more big plays against Auburn's. What are you doing?
It's the Harry Potter theme music. Keep going.
Harry Potter theme music?
Yes, The Witchery.
Okay, but he has his own Twitter account now on Harry Potter. And
does he?
Yeah, now he's just singing.
Jake's Mudblood. I was trying to vibe with you.
We're making be fantastic for Auburn fans to pay Penn State back after the close win, after the close loss in Happy Valley last season. I just think Penn State comes down and gets the job done. Give me Penn State.
All right, don't throw slot fade on the goal line.
Don't do that.
He's not there anymore.
But they'll find a way to beat Alabama or something. All right. They'll find a way to beat LSU or something.
In the comments, after you've liked, after you've subscribed, after you've told everybody about it, and they've liked and subscribed, tell us who you think's going to win those games. Bets tonight. Blaine, once again, didn't tell me before the show.
I did. Set him in the group chat. You just didn't write him down.
Didn't see it. When did you send in the group chat?
About 5:45.
5:45. Let's look at that group chat.
5:45,
I'm on
5:50.
You coming there about 5:45 this morning, Cone?
5:50,
6:04.
6:04. It's past 6. I'm locked in.
Oh, that's on you, buddy. Right
I'm locked in. What are your picks, Blaine?
Give me, Air Force minus 11.5 against Wyoming. Hey, the head coach of Wyoming's been there for like 47 years.
Chad Bowl.
He said this is the best.
Craig Bowl.
Best Air Force team he's seen in the last 10 years.
That's minus 190?
Minus 190. And then I believe, the under.
You did. You
at
took
minus
the under
50.
50.5 at
50.5.
minus 195.
Yeah, at minus 195. A lot of running the ball is going to be going on in this game.
Tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, a lot
Run
of
that
hike.
clock.
Let's see if we can get three,
Right.
get three.
Here's what I like. Give me Wyoming plus 17.5. That's an alternate line at 16.5 with two teams that run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
Brent Peasley throws the ball worse than Ron Weasley. That's another Hogwarts reference. But I love Swin, the running back. This game I think is going to be slow. Air Force, while they are a triple option team, they are one of the most explosive triple option teams there are. This isn't like watching Navy or some of these other teams that just bleed it out and they're like, all right, we'll take our 6 possessions versus your 6 possessions and see how we do. Air Force can hit explosive plays, but I do like Wyoming at home in Laramie. It's a tough place to play. Plus 17.5, just lose by 17. I'll win it on the hook. Then give me Louisville plus 2. I was going to take a money line, but money line Louisville's plus 120. At plus 2, they're still plus 100, so that's not a big loss there. They're both dog bets. Louisville can win, it hits. They can lose by 1. FSU kicks a field goal to win by 1 at the end. I'll be as happy as anybody, but I got a sneaking suspicion Louisville wins this game because Florida State hasn't been able to put multiple good outings in big games together, David.
You might be right, but I like the under in this game, 59.5. I'm thinking 31-28, something like that. Those odds are minus 145. And then I'm still going to ride a Nerfy train here. Rangers raise Nerfy at minus 145. And what do we talk about with the no runs in the first inning? It's the away pitcher who has to be good.
Yep.
In this case, Martin Perez with a 2.77 ERA. I think he goes in and shuts the Rays down in the first, and then Kluber can come in and take care of the Rangers.
Corey McCluber. All right, Baby Cone. He wants FSU money line. That's minus 145, and Air Force on the alternate minus 13.5 at minus 140. Pretty good board here. Remember, tomorrow we have our Saturday special. Georgia Southern head coach. They just beat Nebraska. Clay Helton's going to join us. That's a hell of an interview. If you just love football, we ask him a lot of questions outside of just Georgia Southern, kind of, the future of the Sun Belt, the Group of 5, stuff like that. And as always, we're going to have our Sunday recap and NFL preview Sunday morning at 9 Eastern. That's 8 Central. Parting thoughts, Cone.
Parting thoughts?
Parting thoughts.
Football tonight.
Football tonight.
Football tonight.
Poll.
College football.
This got brought up earlier
There's a
in the
poll?
show. I don't know how it got brought up, but it's so much interesting. What would you rather explore? All right, and we're thinking from the Booster Club perspective here. The deep sea or outer space?
I would say outer space, give me 64%.
I have my scuba license, so I've already taken care of that. Let's go see what outer space is all about.
Percent?
Huh? Oh, I have to do a percent, sorry. So what'd you say?
I said, don't worry about
This is an everyday
64.
thing. We do. This every
You
day.
know what? I was really caught up mentally in the outer space
Yeah,
phenomenon,
yeah,
and then
yeah.
I forgot what we were actually doing. Outer space, 65%.
Outer space, 58%.
Ooh, that's 2 in a row. I
Deep
haven't-
sea, 42%.
Look, after what I've watched on One Planet, I'm not going too far in the woods or the water. But make sure you subscribe on YouTube, find us TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. Make sure you're following. Enjoy the football tonight. Have a great weekend. Be safe out there. And like the chances of the Cowboys having a winning season after week 1, we're gone.